Hello, it's another great day for math. So in this question 10, the base topic is really percentages, but on top of that, you really got to understand the context of the question and to read it very carefully. So we have a table showing the number of vehicles per 1,000. So you have to understand this concept. So every 1,000 people, you have one vehicle. That's what it means. So one vehicle per 1,000 persons or people. One vehicle, 1,000 people. And the year is 2018. Okay, so the estimated population of Singapore in 2018 was 5,638,700 people. Calculate an estimate of the number of vehicles in 2018. From the table, if we want to talk about vehicles in Singapore, we have 170 vehicles per 1,000 persons or 1,000 people. So we just basically need to find out actually in the 5,638,700 people, how many 1,000 people blocks are there? Once we know that, we multiply it to 170, we will have an estimate of the number of vehicles. So working wise on the number of vehicles would be the total of 5,638,700 to find out how many blocks of 1,000 people we had and multiply it by 170 to know the number of people. Sorry, the number of vehicles. And that gives us approximately 958,579 vehicles. Right, so that's part A. Moving down. Now, this table shows the percentage of cars that were electric. So there's electric cars now in the 3 countries. So again, we are talking about mostly Singapore, so focus on this. In 2018, there were 466 electric cars. Use your answer in part A to estimate the percentage of vehicles in 2018 that were cars. Right, so you're going to be really careful of the English here. So in part A, we have vehicles, okay? 958,579 vehicles. But you don't know how many cars there were. So they give us some info. There was a percentage of cars that were electric. Okay? With that, we can actually find the total number of cars. And then we find it as a percentage of all vehicles in Singapore. Okay? So one step at a time. First one, this percentage is equivalent to this number of electric cars. So let's do it by ratio. Okay, so we have 0.084% gives us 466 electric cars. So let's first find the total number of cars. So if I wanted 100%, I'm going to do it by a shortcut. Basically, it's 100 over 0.084 multiplied to 466. So that gives us approximately 554,761 with a lot of decimal places behind. I'll just stop here. So this is the number of cars. We need to find it as a percentage of the number of vehicles. Okay, so percentage of cars would be 554,761.9048 divided by the total number of vehicles, 958,579 multiplied by 100%. That will give us approximately 58% to the nearest 1%. So that is part B. And as for part C, with a totally different context, we have charging stations in Singapore. Okay. And the government wants to increase to 60,000 by the year 2030. So basically we have a time difference, right, of 10 years. Okay. And Lee says that each year the number of charging stations needs to increase. So it has to increase from 1,006 to 60,000 within 10 years. And it's increased by a percentage of the charging stations in the previous year. So diagrammatically, it means basically 2020 to 2021. First, you start with 1,600 stations, right? It has to increase by 44%. And basically jumping it multiple times all the way till 2030, adding 44% every single step of the way, we can verify if Lee's claim of 44% every year is correct. We want to know whether it can reach its 60,000 or not. So we really have to do some manual calculations here. I'll show you this way first, then after that the alternative method. So first, what I mean is, how do I quickly add 44% every year? Is there a number that I can attach and immediately press into my calculator? So I'm going to convert 44% into a usable number. So if every year the start is 100%, if I add 44%, everyone, it means I need to hit 144%, right? If I convert that into a proper numerical number, it's 144 over 100, which is 1.44. In other words, this key number 1.44 is the multiplier for every year. So basically, instead of saying I add 44% every year, I just need to say that it's the same as multiplying by 1.44 every single year, all the way until I reach 2030. So I'm going to do it 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm going to check if we can reach 60,000. So in your calculator, actually it's pretty simple. For example, I will first key in, everyone, it's important of the order. I'll just key the first number, 1,600 times 1.44. And that should give you, firstly, in the first year, the growth will be until 2304. Now, without changing anything, what I'm going to do in my calculator is that I'm going to take the answer, you can find it on your calculator, and I'm just going to immediately press times 1.44 again. So basically it was the 2304 times 1.44, and I'm going to press it one more time. You realize you're going to get 3317.76, and now with your calculator locked in with the answer times 1.44, I'm going to do it 8 more times. So let's all do that together. Press it one more time. Immediately press equals. You realize you'll get around 4777.5744. Don't need to round off. Just keep pressing the equal sign. In total, you'll press a total of 10 times. Or you would have done it 10 times. And after pressing it multiple times, do keep track, everyone. You realize at the end, you would hit the value of 61,340, and that is sufficient for our goal of 60,000. So Lee is correct. So let me conclude here first, okay? So Li is correct, as by 2030, the number of stations would be a total of 61,340. Okay, so this is one way of doing it. Alternatively, I'm going to use blue here. If those of you who are very good with the topic of compound interest, we can actually use the formula of compound interest. Meaning, every year there is a percentage of R added every single year. A percentage addition. So, basically you want to know the total stations when I first start with my principal amount of 1,600 stations and I do it for 10 years. So the working is simply 1,600, 1 plus 44 for 10 years. So I repeat one more time. First, we started off with 1,600 charging stations. Every year, I am going to add 44%. It's like a super high interest rate, and I'm doing it for 10 years. So with that, it's a shortcut method, so to speak. You would get your 61,340 approximately, and you would come to the same conclusion. Okay? So, quite an interesting question. You got to really know the context of what does it mean by adding 44% every year. So you could do it by the manual way, like I showed you here, using your calculator. Or if you were creative and sharp, you realize I could use the formula of compound interest to do it as well, where the interest rate is 44%, which is unheard of for banks actually. We're done.